Our assistant is like that. Like
I
Megan
know.
is
Assistant at work.
Megan is like noticeably lower every time she has a conversation with her. It's
Do
actually
you
awesome.
have you watched What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series?
Nope.
I have now.
It is quite good, and Colin, one of the vampires in it, is an emotional vampire, and that's explicitly what he does. Is he works in an office and he just drains people of their energy by being like purposely socially awkward. And it is so he is like the whole series is amazing, but he is hilarious in it.
Colin
So
Robinson.
it's
Yeah,
not the
Colin
social
Robinson.
awkwardness that drains, like in Brenda's case, that drains the energy. It's the like vacuum of positivity. So like you'll be like, "Hey, Brenda, how was your weekend?" And then she'll be
That's
like,
the other emotional vampire in the series because there's two. There's another one you meet in the first season, who's just this woman who like always is just super sad and depressed about everything.
Yep.
And then you find out that she is also a vampire, and that's how she and it's
Wow.
so good.
Today I learned I'm the emotional vampire of the Warhammer community.
Well,
Amazing.
I mean, not far off,
I mean,
really.
you're not the only one.
Yeah, there's a bunch. But I mean, you might be the vampire master. You're the Sanger vampire.
Ooh,
No,
I don't
the Baron
mind that.
vampire. What was there's a Fallen Empire's magic card that was like the leader of the vampires.
Yeah, Baron Singer, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a popular card.
Hello,
Is he
everyone.
still possible?
Welcome
way.
to the Honest Wargamer. I'm
No
your host,
way.
Rob. Welcome to the
About
40k
ready.
adjacent show.
We're started.
We've
my.
started. We're off at the races.
I even
Oh,
have
no.
pants on this time.
Thanks to Ty Winning and Idiot Night for resubscribing. And all I can say to everyone here is shabang-a-bang. Thanks for tuning in.
Bing bang bing bang.
A bit of bing bang.
Bitty bong bong.
We do need a Watiti emote, 100%. So hello everyone, welcome to the show. I'm joined by these two gorgeous individuals, Val Heffelfinger. What kawaii, don't know, great hat by the way. Is that like a baseball thing?
This is the greatest logo in
Snooker.
sports. It's a snooker, yeah. It's a snooker logo. No, this is the Buffalo Bills, and the city's called Buffalo, and they named them the Bills in reference to Wild Bill Hickok, of course, and the Wild West show. But this is just a buffalo standing in a field, and that was their symbol for like the first 30 years. And then they've subsequently found a more dynamic version of the buffalo. They call it the Charging Buffalo. I'll wear it next week. But this one, I mean, look at that. Does that not inspire athleticism to you?
Yes.
Buffalo. O.J. Orenthal James Simpson wore this very logo on his helmet while rushing for 2,000 yards for the first time in an NFL season.
The fridge.
No,
not the
OJ.
fridge. The murderer.
OJ. The murderer.
Oh, the murderer. Oh, okay. Sorry. So
That's,
confused.
That's the refrigerator Matthew Perry. He was on Friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get.
Also WrestleMania.
Who's the Wiz
both
then?
Matthew Perry's.
Who's the Wiz?
That was a Marvel Comics superhero that was a take on the Flash. And also I
A
think
bad sequel to
Fred
The Wizard of Oz.
Savage and Fred Savage who was like playing Nintendo. The Power Glove. Was that the Wiz too? Was that called the Wiz?
Or was that the
Or was
Wizard?
it the Wizard?
I think that was the Wizard.
I think the
It was
Wiz
the Wizard.
is a stage musical.
Oh yeah.
no.
Also P.
No, you're thinking of The Wiz is like a dystopian sequel to The Wizard of Oz. And you're thinking of Wicked, which is a prequel to The Wizard of Oz and sort of concurrent with, from the perspective of
Anna Kendrick.
of
Very
the
attractive woman.
Anna Kendrick. Yes, that's the one.
Not going out with Takiki Watiti though.
Taika Waititi, oh, man, I wouldn't
kick him
stop
out of
that.
bed. That's true.
Well,
That's true.
He's a nice man. He's very funny. I enjoy him.
Me too. He's very
And
great. I don't know
Adonis.
if you know who he's currently dating, but I found out yesterday. Maybe worth a Google later on. Hello, everyone.
Reynolds.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in. Falcon,
Better be Angela Lansbury. Let's look this
How-
up. Anyway, continue.
Val, how are you? How are you doing, by the way? And also thanks to Wolf Wargaming for resubscribing. It's very lovely of you. I'm a good demon honest has asked a question. Val, I'm going to throw this straight to you. Being asked to play in a fun and fluffy comp, how do you turn off your winner at all cost tournament brain?
How do you probably just show up? If you're an average Warhammer player, you'll be all right. And then outside of that, I don't know, just do Highlander. Just make a Highlander list. There can only be one of everything.
Oh, so only one model from each, like from a book. So you can only have one.
Yeah,
of
so you
each
just restrict.
unit.
You only let yourself bring one of each unit, and usually you just wind up with a nice little, like not crazy thing, or just watch a tabletop tactics episode and grab one of those lists. But seriously, like, I mean, I don't even think that's a dig. I think they would be like, yeah, mate, that's exactly what we're going for. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
handsome. I'm handsome.
I'm handsome and I'm charming, and I'd like you to play some pretty fun Warhammer. Is what I'd like.
Well, we just run into each other with our guns, and then we'll go for tea. That's good, huh?
I tell you what, one of our band shows last night, pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
I spoke to one of the coaches afterwards. He got his first ban off that he wanted, and then after that, apparently, it was all memes. So the opposing team started banning shooting, and then the opposing team just started to ban as many shooting units as they could get out of the game. It was really funny. Like, most of the meta pick shooting units in Age of Sigmar were banned for Sunday's match, which is just wild fun. So no idea what that's going to look like. But that's just a side note I just thought I'd bring up when you're talking about just fighting and whatnot, just like walking forward, having no doubt. Fighting around the world. Fighting.
Yeah.
Pete, how are you? I don't know if I didn't even ask. How are you? Are you well?
You did ask me that, and then we got cut out. I'm great. I got a trailer for JVP, so like for a bicycle,
like a movie trailer.
Yeah, like a movie trailer. It's got the pop-out sides, and he just yells at us from inside. He doesn't let us come in anymore. But
bougie lifestyle, I get it.
A trailer that you wheel behind the bike. It's like a sedan chair for a baby. It's fantastic. And he just sort of sits and looks out the window while we pedal him around the city. And we rode a bunch of kilometers, and it was awesome. I had a great weekend. It was a long weekend. We celebrated Queen Victoria and the what's the word? Starvation of the Irish and
really big
weekend.
Thing for us. Really big thing in Canada. Yeah.
Like
the Irish
literal
potato
Victoria
famine.
Day. Yeah.
Huge deal for us. We love it.
Wow.
Love it.
I've only recently realized that Canada's I think one of, if not the only Commonwealth nation that for some reason celebrates Queen Victoria every year.
Yeah.
And
IPF. IPF Day. Just eat
what?
grass. Irish Potato Famine Day. We go outside, we eat grass, have hunger strikes. Only for the day though, so it's really just a terrible idea because you're not really hungry by the time it's over.
Only recently, like there's been a lot of like backlash, obviously recently against historical figures that did awful things that we venerated up until about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And that includes our founding drunk prime minister, Sir Johnny MacDonald. Had a few of his statues pulled down or defaced and stuff like that. But Victoria, she has escaped this wrath, and I'm not sure that she should. I mean, I think she's cool and all, but not totally cool. Like she's got some real uncool elements that maybe we should look into.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
I mean, India, was a thing, problematic issue,
There's lots of problematic issues around the world, but thankfully none on this show.
None. We have never said anything controversial, not even once.
Anyway, I mean, the fact that one of the videos made it to ST&T is just mind-boggling at this point.
I mean, listen,
Magic Horn,
those
former
guys,
opera singer.
Oh, who?
Hell yeah.
Who's a former opera singer?
Magic Horn gave some recommendations to Robbo, who is falling to pieces in front of us.
Rob is absolutely dying. Everyone, he's got the coronas or something.
I don't have the corona. I've been tested to see if I have the corona, and it's not the Rona.
That's good.
Good for you, though.
The rundowns is what it is.
The rundown.
The rundowns. Yeah.
Hey, remember Honest Wargamer rundowns? You used to do that.
Yeah. What happened to those?
Well, someone yesterday. We tried to do one last night. We tried to do a review of the new Kragnos War Scroll. But the chat decided to derail us for as much as possible. Ultimately,
as they should.
As they should. And then ultimately, by the time we get to a rundown, normally lots of the stuff's out there, but I think I'd like to go back to doing rundowns. I like them. I thought it was a fun process of going through stuff. It's just finding the time. I think once we get the coverage all up and running, we can go back to doing stuff like that because it'd be really fun.
I am shocked. Sorry to cut you off, but I don't care anymore.
That's fine.
Kragnos, I am shocked that GW thinks that our players can multiply. Like that they can do basic multiplication. Just shocked that they would add that to a data sheet.
Shocked.
Kragnos.
So Val, what he does is when he charges, I got to learn some great maths yesterday. He rolls, if he fights a monster, he gets to roll 2 dice, and he times the lowest dice by the highest dice, meaning that he does 82% of the time he'll do some amount of mortal wounds. So if you roll a 1 and a 6, it would be... Oh no, that would be a 7.
No, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that won't work. If you roll a
It'd be
2
a
and a
6.
6, he'd do 12 mortal wounds. But a roll of a 7 achieves nothing. So 18% of the time he does nothing. But then, like, on average, most of the time. So I think there's like a 38% chance for him to, like, wipe out a monster
Wouldn't that
on
be
the charge.
30? Like if you roll boxcars, isn't it
Yes,
36?
it's
mortal
36.
wounds?
That's the
That was a
headline.
That was the headline. Potential 36 mortal wounds.
I mean, that's not even like outlandishly rare. Like that'll happen with some degree of frequency.
Yeah, 1 in 36 times.
Yeah.
Almost 3%. Just shy of 3% of the time he'll just do 36 mortal wounds. I mean, luckily,
Pete, you got a bustle in your hedgerow when you look at this new Lord Croak? Do you just think to
yeah,
yourself,
oh yeah. Well, that was months ago. Months ago that guy got leaked, and I had a full-on erection for several days that I had to go to the doctor about.
You know what I mean?
Only $115 American on release. Only 115, so like 180 Canadian. Probably worth it.
Something I didn't bring up yesterday
was
something I didn't bring up yesterday is like he's on a lot of rock. You're paying a lot of money for rock, not model.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of like spectacularness that's not like. I mean, he is just a giant frog. I mean, they just sort of amped up.
Oh, Croak.
What? Oh, he's talking about Kragnos. You're talking about Croak. We've gone.
By the way, is this the sexy centaur that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Kragnos is, except for
do
the
you like
teeth.
him? What do you think of him? Croak's phenomenal. Great model.
Kragnos is neat. What is he? Like what is he?
What do you think he is? Great question. What does his image make you think? Like what faction would you tie him to?
Horsemen, chaos, beastmen.
Beastmen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
Good
Incorrect.
for you. Good for yes. A lot of people.
He's got a bit of an ape face, though.
He has. There isn't many monkeys or apes in Age of Sigmar other than the player base, full of them. I would say that the chat. By the way, Val, if we clip that, that's just there's a whole bunch of beastmen going, say, like screaming at the screen right now. Like he's actually been put in destruction. He's the god of all destruction, and in no way a co-opted beast of chaos model that they made and were like, "Oop, nope, we're not going to do that faction."
God of Destruction, just going to back up a sec, just going to pull the lens back, maybe go up back to 40,000 feet. Wouldn't that be Khorne? Isn't that kind of Khorne already? What's the difference between destruction and fighting?
Khorne's just like violence.
Right? Different from destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah, murder. Pete, how are you? I think that's where I'm next.
Well. I'm super well. I'm better than you by far, by the looks of things.
Way better.
I'm doing fine.
I DM'd my first D&D session in like 4 years. Amazing. Last night.
Oh, that's why you're all fired up. You got
ended at midnight.
Brain.
Yeah, I mean it was a slow roll at first to get back in the DM mindset, but once I got going, I felt pretty good. It was a good sesh. Ended at midnight. Fell asleep. Woke up 3 hours later. Here I am. Look at this.
Bam.
Well,
drink Diet Pepsi, by the way, guys. Like, don't judge me. Fuck you. YouTube chat, fuck you. I couldn't get to my tea in time before the show started. I grabbed a Diet Pepsi. Yes, I'm going to die early. Look at me. Do I look like I'm in peak physical condition? I'm fucked.
It's not like a Mountain Dew. You're good. You're good. Come on, Diet Pepsi. Well, how far off is it from coffee, really? I mean, I've got 3 sweeteners in here.
7.
Like, it's a Diet Pepsi. It's
7.
Just coffee.
Would you like to know what my coffee order is? Because
tea?
It's a decaf,
So.
oat milk,
yep,
mocha.
Maca. Is that like a mocha?
It's exactly like a mocha, but just said in English.
When I play snooker, I like a maca.
A maca.
This has got some oat milk in it, too. There's some all protein shake going on here.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you to Trendy Love for donating £9.65 to the show. That's
very
deeply
specific.
kind, and that's very terrific of you. Thank you so much. Hopefully, the money that you've donated has led me on to ask an actual 40k question, and that would be:
Yo, what's
Did
the
you
what's the
guys-
follower count at? Is that real? Is that an actual follower count?
What do you mean by follower count?
It looks like in the bottom right-hand corner of your overlay, there's 6,999 followers, and that seems unlikely.
Oh no, it might be. It could be. I don't know what the actual number is.
69.99, baby.
$69.99.
Someone clip that. That's very specific. Oh no, we're at
Thanks, Trendy
7,000. We missed it. We missed it. Thanks.
Oh,
thanks
it has
whoever
gone up.
followed. Thanks whoever followed.
Damn it! Oh wow, I can't believe you eyeballed that. That's great. Like the pedometer.
Hey.
Which I'm going to ask a 40k question. I'm so sorry.
Please.
But new
I
chapter
know it's coming.
approved.
Oh god. Oh
New-
god. They really snuck it in there too, eh? It was like, talk about burying the lead. Let's just look at the Sunday preview. How many things are previewed? 1, 2, 3,
Oh, no, we
4,
lost
5,
Pete.
6. Pete? 7,
Pete?
8. 8 things previewed before chapter approved. Where'd he go? Oh no, we can't continue.
No. Oh, he's back. Pete's back.
He's back. But now there's
Okay,
now the
what was
stream's
that
back.
about? Like, listen, I had to leave. That whole copy thing was bullshit. I had to
Copy
leave.
thing?
Talk about. Go on, Val. What do you mean they buried the lead?
I mean that chapter approved, which is normally, I think, announced in its own article, was the 8th thing scrolling down through a lot of Age of Sigmar announced in the Sunday preview.
That shows
And
some real
I just-
confidence.
Maybe a little bit. And there's apparently a Gazgul book. Whoa, neat. Huh. Maybe I'll not read that.
Maybe I'll buy that and not read that.
Just like my entire Warhammer book collection, which I just periodically just recycle, literally. I've thrown out so much of it. Yeah, I'm not hopeful at all. I don't know if you guys remember the first 8th edition chapter approved, which I think there were a lot of hopes set on. And then the second chapter approved, in which we realized that it's exactly 6 months that it takes for them to get a book from press print to printing. And that's why I suspect that we will now see the end of the tyranny of Mortarion and the Space Marines. I'm glad to see that they're probably going to get nerfed out of existence, which is very fair and just.
Well, that's accurate. Maybe you've hit us right on the Pete. Like, there's loads to unpack about new chapter
Yes.
approved.
Yeah,
Where
we're
you
done with
at?
coffee talk, right? We're done with
we're done
coffee
with coffee
talk.
talk. No more.
Fuck,
I'm
good.
sorry about that.
Jesus fuck. Oat milk. What the hell? It's not even real milk. You can't milk an oat. Anyway,
No, it's like oat juice. It's oat
I don't
juice.
like talking about 40k. We all know this. It's a garbage game. I don't know why we even put ourselves through this mess. Chapter approved. I am extraordinarily optimistic. I have decided I am turning over a new leaf. I'm optimistic they're going to do it right. They're not going to nerf anything. They're just going to be like, we know that we release our book 6 months out. We have no way of knowing what's good anymore. So we're not going to touch it. We're going to fix the stuff nobody's playing. And then we're going to fix secondaries. And word on the street is that secondaries have been fixed in this book, which is big. If that
On
is
the
true,
GT pack side of things.
the GT pack side of things, yes. So
Can
As
I
in,
ask
like,
you-
the
secondaries have been revamped, new missions. Super excited for that.
Yeah,
What
that's
do-
legit.
I tell you who doesn't think that's legit. My overlay guy. His exact words were, "If they've changed the mission, the primary in any way, I'm going to find every copy of it and burn it, and then burn down Games Workshop." Were his words. Strong reaction.
Why? That's heavy.
Very strong.
Strong
That's the
reaction.
Anna Green Gables reaction if I've ever heard
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he's
a
just
little over the
finished.
top.
He's just finished programming the app, and he was like livid, livid.
Well, you can let him know that if he's programmed secondaries, they are completely redone. So
no,
like,
yeah.
that's fine. No, that's fine. They're what we call a transient state, as opposed to fixed pointage like the primaries. So what do you mean? What's wrong with the secondaries, other than, as I understand it, scramblers are for nerds?
oh, that's just a Tom Layton thing. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's-
that is a brutal take, I'm sure.
Yeah. At least from a data standpoint, there are a number of secondaries that are just like way better than the others. Is the crux of the issue. There's like 4 or 5 secondaries that everybody takes, maybe 6 or 7. And then there are whatever 9, 10, 12 that never see the light of day because you average like 3 points on them.
Big
And
question,
that's it.
Pete. So I think the original intent behind the secondaries was that they were supposed to be hard. So they were supposed to be hard to do these things. Then they quickly, it seems like every time they make the game hard, they immediately panic and make it super easy.
Yes, they do. They do.
So
indeed.
like we're gonna make everything more expensive. You know, armies will be smaller. Oh shit! What have we done? Kill all the points. Drop the points. So my question is, what do you think is in the design space? What do you think is better? Do you think secondary should be achievable, or do you think they should be hard things to grind out and maybe you max them, maybe you don't?
I don't care.
Okay, cool. Good answer.
Make it
Rob?
one or the other. Just pick.
Well,
Make it either super hard or don't make them super easy. I don't want everything to be 15s. I don't want ITC 8th edition, like secondaries don't matter, right? So which I don't think we were actually at, but we were at a point where there were like certain obvious choices and the game had kind of been solved from a secondary front, I would say.
My question, I'm kind of interested actually because I don't know if this is the case in old 8th edition ITC. Did you get points for achieving and points for denying?
No.
Right, like a secondary, because this is something that we do in Age of Sigmar a lot at the moment. So we have these things called auxiliary objectives. They're kind of like that because tournaments were so big. We didn't have any secondaries at all. It's all primary based. So they eventually released a bunch. Before that, the community had developed a bunch of secondaries, and we always had achieve and deny. So if you achieve yours but deny that, so like the swing point, like you could win the primary but still only win 16-4 if that makes sense, because like you didn't achieve either of your secondaries and you didn't deny either of their secondaries, so it could go down from a 20-0 to a 16-4. I really like that. Like, I always thought that there's something integral about being able to stop your opponent doing X. I guess that's also true. Like, I'm trying to stop you doing scramblers. I'm trying to deny you X. But I don't know if they're necessarily like. I 100% believe that this edition of 40k is a great version of playing tabletop wargaming, and I'm super pro it. I think the primary, so you're keying into achieving and moving around the board being vital, like you have to get those 45, and then the other 45 being up for like that's the meta level on top where you're doing other stuff to try and control board space or like do a thing or stop a thing happening. I think that's wonderful and I think that's really great. I just don't think that they've like nailed it on what those secondaries are or how to process them. I would say like that's where I'm at, so I'm excited to see what their second stab at it is. And I don't think that the ones that are really rubbish for me are like the Space Marine one, where you basically just turn up, play a game as Space Marines, and then you get 15 points.
And there's a few of those. There's definitely a few of those. I'm not sure if they're touching the Codex-specific secondaries. I would love it. I think the one thing I would love more than anything is, like they kind of did with stratagems back in 8th, when not everybody had a Codex yet, release like 1 or 2 Codex-specific secondaries for everybody that doesn't have a book yet. I'd love to see that in the CA, as long as they're properly balanced.
So with the GT pack, which is now actually going to be the official rules pack of 40k and soon to be Age of Sigmar events, they'll have something equivalent. Because Mr. Brandt has unveiled his road show, getting out on the road. Games Workshop.
Straight to those COVID lax states.
Yeah, but look, man, they're all back. Dude, I'm pretty sure Canada's almost passing the United States in infections, which is kind of sad. But nonetheless, no, everyone's doing this because, the vaccines are awesome. Science has solved our problems. Deus Ex Machina, we're out of this, man. It's over. So let's not beat up on the choices. Maybe it's where they could book things. Who knows? Don't care. Nonetheless, the point of this is that maybe that GT pack is going to be a little tighter. Perhaps there are some restrictions that weren't in the previous GT pack because it wasn't really a GT pack. It was just a slightly different version of the match play rules in the BRB. So maybe there's an evolution because, like, for example, all the pregame stuff is kind of whack as it is right now. You kind of just ignore it when you're doing things like, for example, setting up the table is not something anyone actually does pre-game at a tournament. So maybe we'll see example terrain in the GT pack. Maybe we'll see a better order of operations for how the game starts and things like that. Maybe we'll see a restriction. Maybe no codex secondaries allowed. I don't know. Who knows? Like the whole world could change with a much improved iteration. And I'm just going to finish one more point. I'll point out that the ITC Champs pack, which was really good, I think, by the end, took a lot of iterations. They took a lot of swings at that pinata to get them sort of tightened up, especially right out of the gates. And they had the exact same problems.
I agree. That is the problem when you only do one swing and then put it to print, as opposed to multiple swings behind doors before you put it to print. I get it. Like, eventually when you do... I mean, maybe a lesson they're learning. If you put more work in before you do a thing, you get a better product before you put the thing out in the world. Wild statement being thrown around on this show. Arguably insane, I can imagine. Yeah. Not something to take on board too heftily. I agree with what I saw Nick say in the chat about the secondaries, because I'd like to stay on that because I think it's really, really fun. I think they should be difficult to achieve and make you need to do other things that aren't near a primary objective. So some of the ones that we saw, obviously, like pooping on an objective for Death Guard, etc., like, you were already going towards those, you were already being a part of that process. I think having stuff where you're non-interacting with the rest of the board or with the primaries, I think is feels like a better tech, I would argue. I don't know what you guys think. Pete?
I mean, I mostly agree. I think there comes a point where you run out of design space is all. That's really all it is, right? You can say, like, in the end, you can say, I'm doing this action, and it's me setting up a Skull Island, but, like, you're still doing the exact fucking same thing that a guy doing anything else that's an action is doing, right? Yeah. You just changed the name. So, like Reese used to say when he was trying to develop the ITC pack, there's like, this game is all about two things. You're either killing something or you're standing somewhere. And then it's just like, how many iterations of killing something and standing somewhere can you do? So they've added actions, which are just standing somewhere with benefits. And like, that's basically where we're at. I would love to see some really interesting, like, new takes on design. I just don't know if we'll go that route. So then it becomes, well, how can you make standing somewhere feel flavorful for a faction? And does that break the game? Yes, Death Guard and Dark Angels have some really stupid secondaries when it comes to that, because they're doing exactly the thing that they were going to do. Same with Space Marines. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they've come up with something super brand new. It's not something I've put a whole ton of thought into about fixing secondaries. I just knew that they were an issue. But we've had other issues that I thought were, at this point, a little deeper, that we needed to get corrected first. So
what were the other issues, do we think?
I mean, the game balance is completely fucked right now, so that's my biggest concern. More than anything.
What's completely fucked?
The game balance.
There's like 8 factions that are above a 50% win rate of 33 that are currently available. 4 of them are well above a 55% win rate. One of them still hitting over 70 week to week. And now we have Admech coming out, and we don't know because we haven't seen how they'll actually perform. But that's a real deep codex, and the combos in it definitely look like it's going to be a primo faction. We'll have to see how they change things up too.
I will remind the audience that we are at Christmas as far as release pace is concerned versus 8th edition. We're a full half year behind. And I'd be curious if we were tracking stats, in those early days, how much Eldar and Guard and a lot of the early bogeymen of 8th edition, how much they were raffle stomping people or not. What their win rates would have been, and whether or not that steadily improved with the releases, they're claiming, I feel like the popular wisdom suggests will happen as 8th edition continues.
I mean, it's possible, but right now, of all of the new books, only one has had a major impact, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, just a little side note, don't want to throw this out there and be too much of a jerk about it, but all those books were digital. Get that right out there. There were nothing holding you back.
I know.
If they were all digital.
Yeah.
Would be
if they if they were holding back releases because, like, if they had, and I doubt this is actually what was happening. I imagine there were a couple things that were messed up, but it'd be really awful to me, like from a business perspective, if they stopped releasing models because they couldn't get books from China. Like that would be like really awful, but as far as like business sense is concerned. So I hope that's not what happened. I assume there were more than one thing that was missing.
Yeah,
also, someone asked if because it's softback, like these are soft cover now, especially the Minotaur field manual, if maybe there's a faster lead time on it, which is an interesting question.
Yep, maybe.
I doubt it. I did go to check the GT pack. I actually threw my Minotaur field manual in the trash because once Battlescrap is updated, who needs it?
Quick veto on the conversation for a second and vote to change it to Battlescrap.
Battlescrap. Battlescrap, thank you.
I'm into it, sure.
Yeah. Battlescrap.
Threw that in the garbage because who needs it? But I was just checking to see, is it printed in China? It doesn't actually say. It doesn't say where this is made. So maybe this is something printed a little closer to home, a little faster, but I doubt it. I would assume it's printed with everything else.
That's what I saw the guys at the print shop across the road doing.
Just running faxes.
With loads of copies. Like an
Acme
cartoon.
Binding. That's why it's got the spiral binding. Because that's, they just have that old, like, machine. You know what I'm talking about? You used to do book reports with those.
So game balance. Okay, so let's talk about two things. Number one, I'm very excited for new missions, and I'm very, very excited for new secondaries. I think both of those are really exciting. Like, whether or not it's an iterative improvement, like Val says, or it's just the same, like, fuckery, but, like, with a new skin is super fun because, like, I think having seasons for Warhammer is actually a huge positive. Like, I don't really like the huge new edition change. I think that could all be delivered every single time via, like, something like the Grand Tournament pack or whatever.
Yep.
And, and that's your vehicle. But, every year there being a new way to play the game that you love, I think is rad. I think that's super cool.
Do you think they update the core rules?
Holy shit. Thank you to Nurgle Matthew for donating 25 gift subscriptions in the chat. Nurgle
the Wicket
Matthew
Keeper.
Smashed it. That's right. The Wicket Keeper.
Wicket Keeper, because I'm not allowed to say the other thing.
You're not allowed to say that.
I wish I need a new celebratory sound effect because I did the last week, so I can't do it this week. So
I like at this point, people, like, personal friends of me message me and like, Nurgle Matthew, he's cool, isn't he? And I'm like, he is very cool. Like,
you have to say that, though, right? You got
contractually obliged, but he's actually a really lovely fella. Like, we've met, so there we go. Thanks, Nurgle Matthew. Big love to you. Whoop whoop whoop.
Nurgle Matthew always gets the top bunk when staying at the TSN Fight Dome.
I mean, unless he wants to be a bot, then you can just have it, right?
Yeah.
Top bunk's a little scary.
Throwback to last night. If he wants to be a Man Crusher Gargant, go for it.
He can mix it up. He can be top bunk some nights and lower bunk other nights. Whatever he wants. You can switch it up.
So thanks, Nurgle Matthew. Deeply appreciated. I was going to say that we've talked about like new missions, new secondaries, but the exciting element, I think, potentially is points. Because while the Minotaur, Val, you made this point earlier, so I'm coming back to it, swinging around. The thing that went to print obviously will have had points, and they probably went to print, depending on where they are, before we even got the points as PDFs via was it February? I think
that's right. There was that random one. Yeah.
So
actually, that would be on right around the. That's interesting. That would be right around the timeline, right, where they would have been printing click and go on this.
Exactly. So are they just going to be those changed? And also, because we have this in Age of Sigmar as well, you assume that they do that because they're not like, they didn't do this last week and be like, right, what do we need to resolve today? They do it 6 months-ish ago, and then they're like, this is what we need to fix then. So my question to you both is, do you think that the Minotauran bit is useless, like the points, and then maybe we'll get an accompanying amount of PDFs, or do you think that we're going to get I'm asking you, what do you think the situation is going to be with the points? Pete? Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Did we lose him, or is he thinking?
No, he's thinking.
Just thinking.
He's thinking.
I'm
Oh,
just
wow.
thinking.
That's
I like-
his thinking face. Oh,
Yeah. I really don't know. I honestly don't. I just at this point I assume it's what I don't want is what it's going to be. Is how I think. I think it's just going to be business as usual, and we're going to get points updates based on where the game was in January or
Okay.
February. And that's it. And then we might get a PDF that's like, oh, hey, yeah, we screwed up and we gave you new points for Admech, but the book just came out and they're not supposed to be there type of thing.
this to me is an opportunity that I don't recall them taking advantage of much in 8th edition. When they did errata 2 chapter approved in 8th, it was always to fix like obvious bone ups instead of like rebalancing their rebalance, which I thought was fundamentally pretty dumb. Like I thought, I don't know why they didn't take that opportunity to get it up to date. And also it's fundamentally dumb that they're doing this in a printed book at all. Like just release it as a PDF. They're errata essentially that we're being forced to buy. Like I'll buy this, like no problem. I literally threw away the Munitorum Field Manual. Like it's in the garbage. Like it's a useless thing. Those should be PDFs released as time goes on. It shouldn't be something that they're printing anymore. But anyway, that's grumbling. I would suggest that it'd be awesome if they did PDFs. I think we've also touched on the concept of unnerfing things too. So like I think there's a lot of books that are probably towards the end of the development cycle that, you know, if you just took away some of the things that you did to them in 8th edition, I'm thinking GSC, maybe they have legs all of a sudden, you know? So I don't know. There's a lot of things that they could do that I think just because they're not nimble enough, they don't, right? And
I'm a big
because
fan of
the
just
system they're tied
removing a
to.
bunch of FAQs. There's a bunch of stuff they did because it was broken at the time, and the game has evolved. Just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Do it.
And in AOS, didn't
Freedom.
they do that? Didn't they, when they moved from original AOS to 2.0, didn't they just delete all the facts?
They did, and it was a time.
It was terrible. It was.
Hey,
awful.
I did the review for the initial FAQ for Age of Sigmar 2. That was a fun 39-page review that I enjoyed, where they had to individually fix every command ability in the game, as opposed to, imagine someone was like, hey, why don't we just write, you can't stack command abilities? And then they went, no, go through every command ability in the game and individually change the wording on it. And they were like, all right, boss, no problem. He's like, did you get them all? He's like, I got them all. And then the rest of the community were like, lol, no, these are eels. They've had a 65% win rate for 3 years. Yeah, like, they just, like, anyway.
It's interesting to me, like, they went from that, they went from the keyword, no, was that not keyword? Universal rules. Universal special rules. Were like they became a really unwieldy big section in their rule book, and they were like, all right, that's a bad system, so we're gonna go to everyone gets their own rule.
Much better.
But like, you can go halfway on that, guys. Like, you can have some USRs, or you can just word them the same way. Like P was bringing up the point of like fights last abilities, like they're all like ever so slightly different for some silly reason, where they could just be the same mechanic that you give to things.
As are fights first, as are some deep strike abilities. Like it seems to be kind of willy-nilly, where like a technical writer could just be like, stop it. And punish them.
Yeah.
Don't do that. What is this supposed to do? Please write that down.
We should do this. We should do like what they do, what the Republicans and the conservative movement in the United States did with the Supreme Court. So like we just start right now creating a bunch of like super soldier retail employees at Games Workshop, and we like fill them with technical writing skills. We teach them how to use like a Kanban and like project management workflows. We just give them all those like basic hard skills, and we just get them hired all over the UK, and then slowly they work their way up through the system, and eventually you get a stacked Supreme Court 7-3. And that's what it is. It's not 7-3, but it's whatever it is. 6-3?
6-3 at the moment, I think.
Yeah, there it is.
Can I thank Dave Fraser for donating £69 and 69p to the show? It's very much appreciated, gifted. I assume that's because he's as excited about the points as we are. But I also think it's because I managed to get you two on Twitter. and that's Dave's stomping ground for all of his life.
Oh man, I haven't tweeted recently.
Time for my weekly Twitter check. Let's do a weekly Twitter check. I only check the mentions to see if anything has been going on. People are looking at me.
I should tell some more stories about my grandmother.
My favorite thing about Dave is he listens, I think, fastidiously to like every show maybe put out there, and he just has deep dark takes on every like he's like rare cut jokes on every post.
What's his at? What's his at here?
At Dave Fraser.
At Dave Fraser.
He's the one. Thanks to Scott Brent for donating 5 gift subscriptions in the chat. That's very kind and very much appreciated. You guys are wonderful, wonderful people. And big shout out to the Art of War 40k Down Under, whose podcast you can go and listen to and features both me and Val talking about. I don't think Adam was quite ready for. He was like, "Rob, you got any thoughts on terrain?" I was like, "Oh dear."
Have you listened to the Art of War Down Under? Like he did like a 16-hour review of the Necron Codex, and that was a bad codex. Imagine this Admech review that he's starting to post with Siegler.
Can we talk about that? So I've started to read the Goonhammer article because I was busy all weekend doing streaming.
Sure.
I did 4 shows yesterday.
Oh shit, we segued. Are we segueing to Goonhammer homework that I didn't do?
Yeah,
no,
let's
fine.
do it. Let's do it. Bomb Squig, thanks deeply for donating £20, $69 to the show, and also just always retweeting everything on Twitter. You fucking legend, Bomb Squig. Thank you. I'm getting sweaty now, so I'm just gonna take this off.
You feeling a bit hot?
Someone, can I read? Can I read one
waves?
of the YouTube? Can I read
What
one
the
of the YouTube
fuck
comments?
are you even wearing, Rob?
A shirt.
2 shirts. What
That's
temperature
a
is
jacket
it
and a
there?
shirt. That's a jacket and a shirt.
My mother would slap you in the mouth.
Let me read a review. Well, one of the YouTube thugs yesterday wrote 3 different reviews. Watching Rob toxic as shit and flee accepting kindness. Get over yourself and be a fucking human. Appreciate you. Really,
Good.
really.
Thanks,
really
guys, for listening to me and being nicer to Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Appreciate that. But then probably my favorite review was this one. Honestly, I like your content, but you are reviewing a war scroll and there is 10% reviewing going on and 90% fucking around. It's really hard and frustrating to follow. No offense.
As a fat kid, I always had trouble with the no offense, but you're fat type insults. Like if you're gonna insult, like don't
Just
say
lay it
no
out
offense
there.
first. Just let it hang
up there.
Let it hang up there. I'm going to take offense. Just own the fact that I'm going to be offended, and we'll move on.
Yeah, so like Chris said in the chat, we're fucking lucky when you get 10% content.
I actively work to avoid content on this show, and you guys still fucking roll me into it. You're like, Peter, we need your opinion.
Well,
I know you don't care.
Can I bring up a YouTube thug comment from last week, which I found a little confusing? This was to the adjacent show, which I read, this is the lowest rated one, by the way, which I appreciate, everybody. Pretentious Canadian and Southwestern SJW, least liked guests on this show. So I think this person is suggesting that one of us is a pretentious Canadian and the other one a Southwestern SJW. But we're both Canadian. And I think believers in social justice. So I don't know who he's really critiquing there. And I think, Pete, you also qualify as pretentious. I mean,
I'm 100%. I used to not be, but I got over it.
Yeah.
I realized that like anybody
also, he must never have listened to me ever talk. Because if anything, I think maybe me and Peter like burned the world down. But like,
so fistful of meat. If you do come back to us, what the hell are you talking about? Be more specific in your insults,
please.
Yeah. Also,
I want to work on myself.
Also, you should look at the top pin tweet on the Honest Wargamer. It's like, yeah, it's pretty SJW-esque is what I'd say. What was I going to say? The Admech book.
Admech, yes.
And the reason I want to talk about this in our 10% section is because it came up. It produced the very best line in 9th edition 40k, or maybe all 40k ever. And that line is, when designing this book, the writers had 2 options. They had the options to make it simple or make it complicated. And every time they chose violence. And that is...
I sent that to you right away after I read it.
You did.
I thought it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Corrodes a Frode's a beautiful man. I love
Yeah.
him.
What an incredible line! Like personally, like that, I might put that into the App Awards. We might have a written article awards already. That's high on there in the nominations, the 40K awards this year. Really, really impressive. So yeah, like it seems like a very convoluted and complex book. And my kind of question is about that is, do you think that that's the right vehicle for them to really take it? Because I like more confused. Like going into what Val said in Universal Special Rules, I personally love the system of you have the core rules and then you buy or you put on the additional rules via a war scroll or a data sheet. I think that's just so elegant because if you never learn, if it removes all of the learning I have to do. Like I don't have to learn XXXXX before I have to learn Y. I just put Y on the tabletop and then I know that. Like I think it's such a nice system. And I'm weirded out by the Admech book because I don't know why they would then go, let's make it very deeply confusing. I don't know what you think, Pete.
I think they were like trying real hard to go in a new direction with this book and avoid issues. They were like, we're going to make sure that there are a billion keywords and everything interacts off of very explicit keywords to make sure that we don't have any problems. So in this way we can give out like bigger, stronger buffs to the codex, and it'll be awesome. And I don't think that's how it ends up playing out in real life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. The only reason I kind of like that. You
just feel like they're trying. They're trying real hard, and it's not going to pan out.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. The other thing that I like about it, Val, is I don't know if you've heard this yet. But they've changed the book, and Pete summed this up quite nicely in the tweet. They've changed the maybe the premise of the book, very much like when you read about orcs. Orcs are a weird book because they play best. Well, they played best when they had loads and loads and loads of boys, which made sense, right? It was like whenever you think orcs, it's a horde army. Orcs is a horde army, but really, like they're big fighty boys that should be able to like duff up or kind of hang out with Space Marines, like. And they never really had that as combat, and then they had weird shooting units, and it was fucking weird. Whereas Admech...
Orcs are just like... Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, whereas
this
Admech...
isn't about orcs. Continue.
Yeah. Admech, they've changed maybe the internal paradigm of the book, or maybe how you... Because it was always an elite army hitting on threes and shooting, always, like, generally a gunline army. Mm-hmm. Generally. Although floaty boaties with a bunch of priests in was definitely a build. But they've now made it more, like, of a horde. Specifically, taken Skitarii units up from being able to have max 10 to max 20, which is always something that deeply confused me about Imperial Guard. I know you can have conscripts in large units, but an infantry squad in 10? Like, when you read about them, there's a lot of... there's a lot. And just maxing out in 10 was weird for me. Go on.
That was a fumble from the 7th, 8th transition, because in 7th, they had a cool mechanic, which was the platoon. And so when they went to 8th edition, they took everything and just diced it up into individual parts. And so I think that's kind of why Guard seemed weird when we came into it. As far as the Skitarii thing, Skitarii can go into units of 20 now. That seems weird. That does seem weird.
And it's very strong. They have a number of strategies.
And you can buff them, like even just like knowing what I know of previous Admech, like that would be
the new character. The Skitarii Marshal.
He's cool. He's cool looking.
45-point lieutenant, essentially, Space Marine lieutenant. You can give him a warlord trait to make him a captain as well. So now he rerolls once to hit and wound for all Skitarii.
Nice.
You can give him another ability so that all Skitarii get +1 to their saves all the time. And you can add even more onto this guy. So for 45 points, he can put out like 4 or 5 auras on all Skitarii within 6. And I think like a 60, 80, even 100 Skitarii list is going to be real deadly.
What's your points per model on, your Ranger or your whatever, the other guy?
8 points now. They're
both 8 points?
Yeah, they went down. They went down from 9 to 8.
They're as much as an orc boy?
And they can rapid fire 4 for a strat and auto wound on force to hit.
But arguably, like... So can I talk about this? Because I was saying it to my intern Matt yesterday, and we were kind of having, because I was reading the article yesterday while we were having food. One of the things that I think is interesting about it is like your standard infantry squad now, if we take it as a baseline in 40k, is a 10-man toughness 4 3-up save intercessor squad. That's your standard infantry. So, like, I don't know why they wouldn't let infantry squads from, actual infantry squads from Astra Militarum and also, Skitarii be bigger squads because, like, the amount of firepower that can randomly be thrown around, it's not like there can be a lot of shots, right, generally, and then they're going to just fall down to a stiff breeze. So, and then it kind of allows you to, the problem that you necessarily have with Drukhari is that, like, you put them in the transports, you can't really touch them, you've got to deal with the transports while you do it with the guys. So if they make transports problematic, then the whole game becomes problematic. Whereas I like this as a different angle on it, and I also think that toughness 3 infantry should be allowed to be taken up into 20s and 30s because it would look fucking cool. Like,
I don't think that particular design is bad. I actually think it's awesome. I think the amount of buffs you can layer onto them is going to be a problem.
So if 10 Skitarii are 80 points, how much is it to put how much are the vehicles now? How much are the transports?
No idea.
I wonder how much the transport is.
Anyway. The floaty boaties, but they can't fit 20 in anyway. Although they currently can put Space Marines
actually,
inside.
Technically, the transports are worth it because of the keyword issue, because they were so specific about keywords and then all of a sudden decided they weren't.
Yeah, they screwed that up. But that's like the orc vehicles in Forge World for years.
Can I just thank T-Pain for donating 100 bits to the show? Appreciate you.
No, Rob, do you still have a Admech army?
I do, and I have shit tons of Skitarii. Because
everyone does.
Well, yeah, like specifically though, I built myself 30 Hoplites and 30 Pelestats when they came out because I just think they look cool as. But which meant I ended up with, because you have to buy the bodies, so I just had tons of special weapons. I think I got like 12 transonic arquebuses or like something like that, which is really cool. And I for one am really pro that because I never really liked Cataphrons and I hate Castellan robots. I think that they are the fuggliest models in the world. If you love them, that's fine. That's your vibe. But I always pictured the Skitarii being the Skitarii, right? Like it's the dudes, and they're written as being like they're being waves. There's also the big war machines as well, but generally they're not. Whereas I think that they kind of turn into this like weird elite army for a bit, with the boats and the priests and the other stuff, and I quite like the idea that we're going to see some more ground troops and we'll see like seeing them play. So like I actually think it's really good.
The idea behind the Skitarii is that they're the dudes who like protect the feet of Titans. Is that what they're supposed to be?
No, that would be. Oh, sorry, Pete.
No, it's okay. You were going to say it. I know you were going to say it.
Well, yeah, like yes and no. Like there are particularly Skitarii legions that are like sent to that. They're specialized because they're mechanized
robot
to a degree, right?
humans.
Yeah, they're robots. Yeah, but they all
transhuman,
start out,
if you will.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite bits about like that. I always compare my love for the Skitarii element of Admech with Battlestar Galactica and the dichotomy of the two. In that they believe in technology, but inherently it's tied to God. Like there's a weirdness to that which I find almost like transient. It happens a lot in sci-fi, right? Like AIs or anything generally tend to be like more focused on like the idea of God, which is always weirdly. Maybe because we think of AI as like the next level of God. I don't know. But I always find that to be fascinating.
What's that quote? Any sufficiently advanced technology will appear as if it's magic to the layperson. Something like that. I can't remember who said that.
Yeah.
Chad, who said that?
I think it's more the fact that they believe in a God and they're machine-based. So yeah, anyway. Yeah, big fan of that. And yeah, sorry again, right. Skitarii defend the Titans. So
yes.
That
was what I was going to say, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think it's nice. I don't know about what you two think, but like I think maybe changing up because one of the things with the orcs, Val, that I was going to say, and looking at the Beast Snagger box, I don't imagine we're going to see orc hordes in 30. Like I think maybe we'll see them in 20s, maybe we'll see them in 30s. But I like the idea that we'll see better combat units in a 20 than we would with a weight of dice unit of 30. If I'm making sense.
But I mean, even if they go to a 20 person or 20 orc boy squad, but they get 2 wounds, you're still getting a percentage boost on the overall size of the unit, and you're probably getting an attack upgrade there too. So you're gonna and because it's harder to get them all in one place, it makes a lot of sense for boys to get smaller and more concentrated. I think the question to me is, are they going to have stupid Primaris versus old boys rules, or are they just going to have a new boys model and old boys are new boys, which I really hope is what happens.
Or you hope that they keep both?
I hope that the old boy model is a short version or a squatted down version of the new boy model who just literally stands up. I think that would work. I feel like their dimensions work. Like the old boy's model is just the fact that he is in this weird squat is why he looks so derpy at this point.
Yeah. Pete, well, how do you feel about like units? Oh, also, someone saying in the chat, which I think is a really, really good point, specifically, Woidoy is saying it, is that like hordes, like we were like blast weapons, hordes are wrecked, and then no one really took them.
Almost all blast weapons were way too expensive, other than like plasma inceptors, right? That was the differential. We were like, wow, this is going to be crazy, and testers were like, yeah, blast weapons just ruin hordes, and then like every blast weapon worth its salt is like 150 points.
Another indication that they probably test with no terrain.
Oh yeah, good point. That's a really, really good point. Oh, are we hoping inside the to throw us back to chapter approved? Are we hoping to see terrain pack inside of that?
I would hope. I would love it.
Maybe in the
I want to see what the expectation is versus the reality. That's all I care about now. What was the expectation? Like what did they expect us to be doing? Yes.
Go on.
I have a talking point which I shared with Pete. So coming into the Atlantic City Open, to my great consternation, it was revealed that the plan for terrain is that when everyone, this is, I am part of this organization, but I thought, hey, maybe we should come up with something to solve this. The idea is that when you come to the table, you determine or define all the different terrain pieces. The thing is that in 9th edition, there aren't really any keywords for solid buildings, or at least there's no predefined solid buildings. Those are assumed to be like data slates and like actual terrain pieces that you would pay for in like a fortification detachment or whatever. So the FLG, or the Frontline Gaming Magic Box from 8th edition, which is just a box, and I'm sure lots of different terrain companies and people have just whole 4-sided buildings on their tables, don't really have a predefined set of rules for them, which made me think, what are people going to do when they get to the table? They have to make up rules for these things. And my question I want to throw out to you guys is, what should the rules be for a whole building?
I think it's a box you can't go in, and you could just have it be cover on top if it was flat. If it's not flat, it just be a building you can't go in and or through, and you have to go around. You can go over if you fly, but I don't have any problem with there being solid boxes you can't go around. And thank you so much to 69 Posse 69 for donating £6.90 to the show. You committed to that, and that's deeply appreciated. Thank you, everyone. You're all brilliant people. Go on.
And I agree. The buildings can't be breachable. That's a big thing. Like, make them defensible if you want up top, and make them obscuring, and just live your best life.
My thought was you can go one of two ways with it. You can just call them ruins without the breachable keyword, which basically gives you scalable cover and stuff. But then to me, I think what happens with a lot of these tables is they're basically wide open. And like there's not a lot of like benefit to having a building. So what about adding all the other friggin' keywords to them? Because they are actual solid structures. So like you give them heavy light cover and
obscuring,
dense cover and obscuring. But a lot of, in ITC's case, a lot of their buildings are actually 3 inches tall because it's designed on the old ruins. So they don't obscure.
But why does that matter? You just say it's
because you have to be
anyway.
You
don't have to be anything. You just be like, this is obscuring from 3
You don't
inches.
understand. You don't understand how it works, because if you change that, you're changing the rules, and that's not how the game is intended.
Like
to play.
it doesn't need to be obscuring, right? Obscuring, all that's going to be doing, like they're solid, right? You still need line of sight. Yep. So all obscuring is going to be doing on those small things is protecting big boys. Who cares? Fuck them. Deal with it.
Yeah,
model for advantage, guys.
Okay, so like, to bring the talking point back, and Val, I can understand if like you don't want to be like too heavy on this, but like, Pete, something came up when I was talking to Adam in the 40K Down Under show, and kind of I hadn't really registered till I conversed about it. Is that really the terrain packs that we're really seeing? Okay, I'll cycle back really quickly. In order to set up tons and tons of terrain for a huge event, it's incredibly costly. right?
Correct.
Right out of the bat. So I completely understand where we're at right now before I say the next part. And the next part is that some organizations, for instance FLG or the WTC, have invested, or even Zach's series of GTs, so the ZGT, who knows, are like they've already invested all the money, right? So they no longer are designing terrain to be the best terrain on the board. I think this is a fair statement. What they're doing is they're saying, we have this, how do we make the best terrain out of what we have available to us? And I think that there's a really interesting conversation about there being, this is the standard, but really this is the standard because this is what we have, not this is the standard because this is the best. And I think that there's a good conversation there. Well, I mean, I think that's self-evident, but I guess and also maybe not even solvable ultimately. But I would like to see there be a terrain pack, just be a terrain pack, because I think that we think this is the best terrain pack available. I think that there's a better finalized version. Am I making sense? And or what do you think about that?
No, I think I would love to see just a this is what we imagine a table to be. You can have more, you can have less, but here's the rough estimate of what we expect when we play our games, right? And maybe they set out 2 or 3. They kind of already did it once, but it was so loose that I think it confused people, right? Because they had 2 pictures. This table has 9 pieces of terrain. It's a light table, and this one has 12, but it really didn't go into detail about why they considered it one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see that. I mean, for me personally, it would just answer some questions about why certain things are the way they are. Is it because we're playing too heavy nowadays, or are we supposed to be playing much later, or are gun lines supposed to just be ultra dominant and we just missed it? It's a lot like that. So
yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges is we get hung up a lot on, and I think I talked a bit about this on that show. There's a lot of fetishism for official, what it's supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty clear they've got an idea, but there's no real specific yet of what it's supposed to be like. And I think we do that. Specifically the competitive and the serious crowd who play the shit out of this game. We're the ones who kind of figure out what the game actually is, right? And they iterate on that.
And that's a great point he's about to make. Go on.
That's the hope, but that's not what they're testing on, which is where I'm coming from.
Nailed it.
Sure.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Because you was everything is predicated on that everything that's produced is correct. I know that sounds especially our lived experience, that it's not the case, but it's all predicated on it's you're you can't change it to 3 inches, and I'm why? It fits your terrain that you have. They didn't test it on that. Well, it's what did they test it on? There's no information. And if they test it, and we don't know what they tested it on, and also the whole game is orientated on this is what it was tested on. These are this many points because we tested on this, and this is what we think is correct. If none of that's accurate or true, the whole thing gets thrown out the window, right? And then it's just, and then what you're doing, and this is my key point, is you should just be designing something that's best for your players to have a good time. Just making it so that it's working for you. I can understand the TOs who have huge volumes of terrain. They must be looking at it and thinking, right, how can I make this best for sorting out the meta?
So,
a piece lol, you're not gonna go back.
There are weird conventions that are unsaid but true with how far you can go with this. So if you look at something like Magic Boxes in 8th edition, which was essentially to say there was line of sight was really the only terrain mechanic. And so in order to deal with that, and also to make Frontline Gaming's pieces of terrain playable, they basically said that they were 4-sided ruins, which meant infantry could enter into these magic boxes and be untargetable by anything that didn't have shoot out of line of sight. So they used the rules that existed to make something that wasn't really supposed to be there, right? And that caused a lot of great consternation, but it flew enough. It was close enough because, there's ruins. This is essentially a 4-sided ruin, therefore I can go into it. And so now I think when you're trying to come up with rules for a 4-sided building, I'm concerned because if Frontline Gaming or if a TO were to come out and say, here are all the keywords for a building, there might be a backlash of that's not how it's intended. Or It should be a ruin. Okay, well, how do you do it as a ruin? Like, there's just always that sort of, you're changing the game to sort of attitude, which I agree is bullshit. I think it's dumb, which is why I think things like TSN are really awesome opportunities, because as a broadcaster, you can do what your audience wants rather than, what your weirdo players want, which is, exactly what was written. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is
if the right players, like we have a thing in HCMR where you can, it's not true in 40k. I don't think it is, but basically you can put models halfway up a building. Like, effectively, there's no rules for like wobbly model or anything like that. So like, depending on the terrain, you can like just float stuff halfway up. You be like, this model is halfway up this building. It's weird, but like in the terrain pack that I have here, it's just like, no, you can't do that. Like, it's that easy. It's that easy. Like you need to roll a 9 to charge. Like, really simple. That's in the pack. Anything that makes you think that you don't have to roll a 9 outside of specific buffs, like +2 to it, it's a 9. End conversation. Like, and I think people respond to that really, really well. Like, I really do. I think people are really happy with that. They're like, thanks, that's sweet. I'm going to be cool with that. And the people that don't respond to it well are going to be really awkward at your event anyway. So you lose nothing. It's like a win-win in your world. Like, I think having a mission statement to make it more enjoyable for the player is vital.
So on 40K Spice Center, you have outspokenly criticized Frontline Gaming and the ITC a number of times for making these exact modifications. In fact, on the last Spice Center, they were going off about the fact that the WTC pack was co-opted, really awkwardly, for the ACO and not credited, and that there's some sort of conspiracy against the WTC to steal their rules and also speak poorly of them, which is hilarious because obviously Neil Kerr is working with them.
I don't think that was the thrust of the point, but we did mention that because there's no way. But like the point is FLG did do that, and I think that was a huge positive for the game. I did say that, and I still think that. Yeah. Like, of course it was, because they made it a viable game out of what was a shit show. Like, that's brilliant. Yeah, but now
I'm talking about right now, like literally, like the WTC pack is in effect for ACO essentially,
which is great. Is my point. Like the fact that the FLG are recognizing that the game does need additional help is excellent, or at least the ACO, AOC, CCO, BBO, BCO?
The ACOTO. The
Yeah,
ACOTO.
yeah,
Brian
DTF?
Horton.
DTF?
Brian Legion Horton.
Mr. Brian
Who has
Horton,
used
runner of the legendary Du Bois GT.
Yeah, Du Bois. Yeah, that's what it was.
Has used the WTC FAQ for, I think, all of his events for the last several years. So it doesn't shock me at all that they brought it in.
It's invaluable work. It's invaluable work being done by someone. And as long as someone's doing it, I'm super pro it. Like, because someone has to do it, right? Like, and credit to FLG when they were doing it. Like,
I want to bring, so there was I know we have to wrap up, but there's a criticism that was made on the show that essentially that the American TOs were backlashing against the use of the WTC FAQ because it was European or because it wasn't American, which is nonsense.
No,
they were backlash. That was exactly what was said.
The main criticism was because it didn't include any guns.
It's 40K, but
also
true. Whereas really the backlash was what I was describing. The backlash was that the WTC FAQ takes license and actually changes things in certain places that aren't raw. So rather than just being interpretations of what GW would call rare rules or weird interactions, they're actually making some slight modifications to the game. And that's what got their underwear in a bunch.
Hassles.
It wasn't even that many people.
Yes, it was a handful of people, but
maybe
nonetheless, 2. Yes,
and one of them was British.
That was what it was. Yes, I just hate those takes. Anyway,
I mean, there's lots of takes I hate. I love it.
Yeah, that's the point, and
that
nice clarity. Nice clarity on the conversation, because ultimately, like when all these conversations are had out in public, it's much better. The conversation arising from Thursday and also arriving now is because the conversation isn't being had in public. There isn't like a quorum or a forum on attempting to make something more entertaining for the audience. Like, it shouldn't be complicated, right? It should just be fun. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It should just be fun.
I think the best hope for 40K and AOS are shows like what you're doing. where you have control of the format, and it's your audience that decides whether it's good or not. I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you happened to listen to a show we did on Saturday, Pete, but you got it was a love letter to you for 15 to 20 minutes, maybe. At least
was
10.
it? Yeah, I did listen.
And the work that you do. So
it was nice of Tom to say that and then be like, he's a terrible analyst, but I like what he does.
I didn't say that.
Tom did.
That.
Tom did.
Right,
Tom's like, I'm a way better analyst. I know how data works. I'm joking. I know that's not exactly what he said, but there were points where I think he was going that way. I will say, I don't watch a lot of other shows anymore because of children and such, but it always makes me laugh when I see stuff like my comment about John Lennon arguably being the best player in the world, and how mad people got because they don't seem to understand the definition of the word arguably.
John Lennon literally said, you can't argue that John Lennon is arguably the best player in the world. I'm like, my brain just exploded. My brain just cleaved in half.
I think the point always is that I love that everyone has something to say on all of the subjects and that it's done out in the public, because I think that's true, because then we can I was thinking about this earlier today. If I think about where my co-host and also you guys were 3 years ago, I think we've all developed as people talking about the hobby in the game, and I think that's actually I think that's super valuable for the community. Being able to have these convos is great. So anyway,
and I by the way, that show with Tom was excellent. No jokes, despite arguably being such a indefensible word. Apparently,
the last episode of Spice Center.
No, they did a show on Saturday where they kind of where Tom wanted to talk about how he could become a better analyst, and there's more to it than that. But it's very well thought out. It's a good conversation. There are several good conversations I had throughout. There's a 10-minute part I skipped near the end.
Because it was about you.
Yes, and it's not necessary. I think one of the funniest things, and one of the things that drives me crazy, not just about Tom and it's about all analysts lately. And this I could talk about for hours. Is this concept of there being any meta isn't soft, if you know what I'm saying. There's this idea that your meta is better than everybody else's, and that it happens all around. And I made this comment yesterday, half jokingly. The North American meta is the poached egg of 40k metas all around it. Every GT you go to, it's just a soft, runny mess, right? There are 2 guys that go to every GT that are going to win it, unless they have an aneurysm at the table. And then there's 30 people that are super duper impressed with their grade 7 math skills, or they're just there to have a good time. That's it. But it's not just, I say that, but it's not just North America.
It's true. It's everywhere, right? And it's also true in Age of Sigmar as well. I have to walk a tightrope in some situations where they're here's the results, and I'm in what fucking world did that occur? In what insane fucking planet? And then sometimes when you go watch those people play, that's one of the hardest things, and the rise of streaming I think is so useful, because I did watch John play and I think he's super switched on. I talked about this, we had the captain of the English WTC team on, and I've never had him before.
And I would say 99% of North American players have no idea who he is, or they may know about when he played 9 Flyers, and that's it, right?
They
don't know that he
to him talk was incredible, right? Fuck yeah.
But it's true of everywhere. Poor Lou Rollins sent me a message here on Monday morning. Lou Rollins is the ITC hobby champ multiple years. Gorgeous painter and person. And he was like, hey, we had a major on the weekend, and I just hope that you acknowledge it, because I know some people are basically I know some people are going to be who cares about an event that happened in Utah? And he gave me all these facts about the people that attended, because it was an outlier event. Space Wolves won it.
Yeah.
Thousand Suns were
one
at the
Drukhari
top 4
player in it.
No, there were 5 Drukhari players, and they all finished 2 and 3. Other than one guy went 3 and 2, right? So it was a very much an outlier event. But if you look at the names in that event, and if you know the history of those players, multiple major winners, multiple GT winners, but people will call it soft,
right?
And it's not necessarily true, right? Rich Kilton, I always talk about him when I bring this up. People will man, who is this who is this dude running Index Orcs and
almost winning the AO?
SoCal, ripping people's faces off, right? Like, it's that kind of guy, Thomas Ekstrom-Oki, also from the exact same area. He didn't attend this particular event, but like, they just show up to these super majors, and you're like, you can't call their meta soft if these guys exist in it, because they're just like legit good, and they just never change their faction, is the thing, right? But I always find it funny when I see these people that like when I see this conversation start about like whether a meta is like super strong or super soft, and people getting upset about it. Like, they're all the same. I don't care if you have 8 people that were on a WTC team at your event. I honestly don't. Val was on a WTC team.
Exactly. I said I wouldn't do it, but I'm gonna.
Just do it every time. It's fine with me.
And I'm just doing that last one just to really make Tom mad. That one is just for Tom.
Hey,
also,
listen,
thanks to shows like ours, Pete, we're gonna uncover more and more global metas that are the homes of those 8 WTC players.
Except Western Australia, they're messed up. Rob, I agree. Your whole AOS thing, it's the same 40k. What is going on? Like, they play a game that's adjacent to 40k. In
Western Australia don't have any.
They're adjacent to civilization, so
yeah,
but
go on.
Beautiful people, and
wonderful people. Like, I've got some really good friends in Western Australia, but they send me tournament results, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is a secret that I've never revealed. So if you'd like to, we'll end the show on this. I've actually coached a Western Australian team for 3 years. I do list review and analysis for them off books.
That's lovely.
Is what I see, which has been really nice.
This is your pro bono work? You're just doing this as sort of a charitable thing?
Yeah. To my friend Bradley, and he and he always sends me. He's like, these are our lists, and I'm like, what? And he's like, these are who we're playing. And I'm like, what? So that's right. They won 2 out of 3 though. 2 first, and second. So, but anyway, that's a little sideline. Right. Thank you both for being on the show. Wonderful conversation as always. And I feel better than when I started the show, where I felt truly awful.
You've worked yourself into shape. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. I'm ready for 8 more hours.
In 8 minutes, but.
It's been I treasure you both as people, so thanks very much. Twitch chat, thank you for the incredible gift donations.
Thanks, Twitch chat. Thank you for being so generous. Screw you, YouTube chat. Stop being
Come
mean
at
to
me,
Rob.
bro.
Make only nice comments. Go forward. I don't want to see any negativity. Not that I read. Val reads them to me.
You read the YouTube comments are hilarious. They're like, burnt down a village earlier, Rob. And also, by the way, what do you think of this particular thing? And also, thank you to the silent majority, the podcast Hydro Homies. You guys are brilliant. Much love to you.
Thanks for shouting me out, Rob. That's nice.
I did shout you out.
I'm a Hydro homie. I always listen to the show in a podcast form.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's good. I love the Hydro Homies. Right, thanks. You two got any shout outs before we go?
Shout out apparently to the Saturday chat with Tom Layton, because I'm looking for redemption from my roommate. I'm going to be listening to that today.
Okay.
It's a good show. Very insightful. Both sides.
Pete?
Rob even said some nice things.
Wow. Rare. I've got someone who is so salty, apparently.
I've got nothing. I wanna shout something out. I always do. I just can't think of something right now.
What about just remind us of the Kickstarter, please?
Oh yeah, Outward Realms Kickstarter, my buddy Michael Timpe. It's well past its all of the stuff it was trying to hit. I think at this point he's set like a super stretch goal to develop an app for the game. So if he hits that, he'll be mega excited, but he's already got everything he needs to start sending out models, and they're prepping for like a second wave already. So big props there. Really excited for that game. It is way more in depth than I could have ever imagined as I've gone deeper and deeper into the rules. Like what they showed off on Play on Tabletop and on Mini Wargaming, like doesn't even touch the how deep this rule set goes for what it is. So pretty excited.
I have one thing I'd like to announce. Pete and I did look at Peter's schedule. We looked at the soon-to-be-released lineup of the Frontline Gaming Network, which I'll plug now. Looks like Stat Center will be returning to air immediately after the ACO, June the 14th.
Oh,
June the 14th, 40K Stat Center. Might even be videotaped. I don't know. This has really made me feel bold about putting my face on the internet. Oh, you've already rated something. Thanks, Rob.
No, sorry, it does it automatically. I started the raid, as I said about shout-outs, and then it just took it away.